G'day everyone, I'm the Red Scar, this is Red Scar Gaming. Today is my summary of the second draft of Outlaws of Thunder Junction. Had to think about that for a second. Yeah, I went pretty well so far. Ultimately I went Ores of, not terribly creature heavy, but a bit numerically low on creatures, but none of them were particularly powerful, I'd argue. But I had lots of removal in here. And yeah, I'll talk about each card specifically as I go through, but yeah, the brief summary is that I was trying to go even a little bit conservative on creatures, but just so long as I can keep destroying my opponent and at least destroy the ones that were the big threat. Yeah, I'm an Armadillo did a bit better than I was expecting it to. I sort of drafted it basically because you play it turn 1 and everything else being equal, you've sort of got 3 turns before your opponent can attack effectively, or at least very well. So it's pretty good. I did have quite a few attacks actually that I got to attack with it at as a 4/4 or even an 8/4 a few times. So it's pretty damn good way to spend 4 mana if you happen to have it spare. Now, sure, I wasn't relying on it to be the winning card when I played it, especially if I played it turn 1. But yeah, it's a pretty good way for to have a 1 mana creature, especially with the Ward 1 actually. Corrupted Conviction, probably didn't get as much use out of it as I'd hoped for, though I'm still pretty happy to have at least sort of one of those cards in there that it's like, yeah, destroy my creature if you want, I'll just draw 2 cards instead, which, yeah, sure, is not really a win con, but it might draw you the win con you want. So I'm pretty happy with getting that again. And if memory serves, I had the option of getting a second, but I am happy that I didn't get a second because I didn't actually need to sack that many creatures in thought of it. Insatiable Avarice, I'm a little surprised actually that I didn't get to play it at all. It might have just been sort of bad luck. I did get it a few times in sort of opening hand that I mulliganed, so maybe that's a bit of that's why you shouldn't draft it sort of thing, because you don't really want it in your opening hand. And off the top of my head, I can think you probably don't actually want to draw it until about turn 4 or 5 anyway, and someone feel free to correct me on that number or something, but it's a bit more late game, and I just didn't draw it that time. So yeah, maybe it's bad luck, maybe it was a bad choice. I'm not quite sure where I stand on that front. Nezumi Linkbreaker, for 1 mana, I'm pretty damn happy with it, because there were several times that I got to play it turn 1, get 1 or 2 attacks in, and yeah, sure, that's not like destroy target opponent or anything, but that extra 1 damage can help. And even as a chump blocker, the creating a mercenary for 1 mana is pretty damn good. So I'm quite happy with that, and I'll go with it again. I probably wouldn't rely too much on say drafting three of those or something like that, 2 maybe, but I'd probably go Linkbreaker over Armadillo if you got sack outlets. But yeah, look, you're welcome to disagree with me. Journey to Nowhere, I only got to use once actually, but it is essentially exile target creature, so it was useful then. I don't know if I really needed that, but as I said when I drafted it though, there's not a huge number of destroy target enchantment in this particular set, so I suppose it's a better removal than sort of standard. But yeah, I'm glad I didn't rely on it, but it's a good card. Take Up the Shield, probably didn't get to use it quite as much as I wanted to, and it was probably actually the lifelink that I used more effectively than the indestructible part of it. Not complaining, but it's still a good card that I'm glad I drafted. Maybe in hindsight I didn't really need it, but yeah, once again, you're welcome to argue that against me as well, against me on that one. Desert's Due, I did draft it a bit early, and I know that it is pretty damn effective if you have even sort of 2-3 deserts in the deck. So it can be very effective. It was my first draft. I used, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 copies of it in a much more effective way, which in that case I was happier with it. But yeah, I think even if you don't have any deserts in your deck, it's still not a terrible waste of 2 mana. I'm sure you could do it for better things, but yeah, it's definitely a good card, combat or otherwise. Raven of Fell Omens, I've had better use out of it, but it still has that little bit of burn damage, if that's the way I'm supposed to phrase that, on your opponent, and that little bit of life gain can really help. And it can do it actually pretty early, especially seeing as I have so much removal in this deck that I can all but guarantee to get my opponent to lose a life, me gain a life, just about every turn. So it's good. I'm sure I could have maybe had some situation where there was a better card to have, but I mean, it's a draft. I don't know the future as it comes. Shoot the Sheriff was actually a lot more effective than I was sort of thinking it would be. The last game, my opponent just happened to play a lot of outlaw creatures, so did I draw 2? I think I might have even drawn 2. The ones that I drew anyway were essentially just a dead card, which I think is probably why I lost that game in hindsight. But yeah, I knew that going into it, so I'm surprised that it did so effectively. Though, should I be surprised about it? I'm not quite sure. Claim Jumper is, yeah, definitely a good card. Look, even if you never get its ETB trigger, gaining planes ultimately, a 3/3 Vigilance is still a pretty good way to spend 3 mana. Though, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 out of the 3 times I played it, I did get 2 planes. So that's a great way to at least thin the cards in your deck down to what you want rather than planes, which is pretty damn good. I didn't really use the ramp as effectively as I possibly could have. There's no situation where I played him and thus was able to play Gigapede or something next turn. But yeah, it's certainly not a bad card to have. Could have been used in a better situation, maybe, but it was still good. Murder is, I know it's not the most popular card in draft these days, but I still think it's pretty much, and I'm generally generalizing here. I'm generalizing here, but I think Murder is sort of the standard destroy target creature. Sure, I can see why some similar spells cost a little more, cost a little less, but for 3 mana, it's still good. Certainly not amazing, because yeah, there's definitely times that Desert's Dew is the card you prefer. Definitely times that Shoot the Sheriff is better. But Murder is just sort of the general use, generally good card. And I'll continue to draft that as often as I can. Ruthless Lawbringer, I think partly out of a bit of bad luck, I didn't get great use out of him. I didn't get terrible. So I didn't get terribly lucky on the I may sack a creature to destroy another creature, basically. So, should I be disappointed with me drafting that? I don't think so. It would probably perform particularly well if, say, I know this is good luck, but if I had, say, 3 Link Breakers and 2 Lawbringers in the deck, it'd be a pretty good way to get rid of those, because you sack that and all the mercenary it generates to destroy a target creature or something like that. So, and the fact that it's non-land permanent, it can destroy just about anything you want, really. So it's effective, though if you don't have a trigger for it, it's 3 mana. Well, yes, a black, a white, and 1 for a 3/2 creature, which essentially does nothing otherwise. So you've got to be a little careful with it, but I think it's good. Wanted Griffin, I'm still not terribly happy with it, just as a card in general. For 4 mana, anything with 2 toughness, it'd want to for me to be particularly happy with it, it'd want to do a lot more than just attack. I'm not at all unhappy with the fact that I drafted it, because this deck in particular, I did need to be a bit careful on actually having a win condition, and flying, was it game 7 actually? Sorry, game 6, that my ability to fly is essentially what won me that game. So it definitely did well in that game. Maybe I just got a little bit lucky on how I played that, but I'm sort of wondering, would I think higher of it if it was, say, a 2-3 rather than a 3-2? Yeah, feel free to comment on that and tell me what you think. Boneyard Desecrator, I didn't get as much use out of as I probably wanted. The sack another creature, just because I'm a little bit low on creatures in this deck, generally speaking, there wasn't a great experience to sack another creature, though there is the few chances, off the top of my head, maybe 2 or 3 chances, that I basically chomp blocked with another creature, sacked it, and made Boneyard Desecrator bigger. I didn't get the treasure much, actually, now that I think about it, but yeah, that's probably not the worst thing that happened, and it's pretty good as a 3-4 menace anyway. I'm happy with it, but maybe I shouldn't have relied on it so much in this draft. Once again, tell me what you think. Consuming Ashes, I know it's a good card. It is a surprisingly good card for 4 mana. I didn't actually get as much use out of as I was hoping for, ultimately. Might just be a little bit of bad luck, but I certainly did get good use out of it. And I even got the Surveil 2 a few times. But you do have to be a little bit careful in the whole, if it had mana value 3 or less, i.e. Less than was spent to cast Consuming Ashes, you get a benefit of it. So it can be sort of one of those cards that, even if you are getting rid of something that's 1 cost mana, say, you get at least some benefit out of it. It's a good card, and lots of people have told me in various forms that you should draft as much as possible, and some people definitely agree, but I'm happy with it. Baron Bertram Greywater, as I said from the start of the draft, that I know he's not going to be like win condition sort of material in this particular deck. He would definitely work better in others. I didn't get to use the activated ability of his to sack a creature, draw a card, which I suppose I'm not unhappy with, but in this particular deck, I don't think I even triggered him at all. So in this particular deck, he was just a 4 mana 3/4, which, with the power of hindsight, I shouldn't have drafted him in this particular circumstance. But I'm sure there's times where he's good. Overzealous Muscle, I'm pretty happy with how I've seen him perform, just generally speaking. I didn't get as much use out of him as I have before, either good luck or bad luck. You think of that how you will. But I think he's good just as a big dumb creature, and I did need at least 1 or 2 of those. Which, yeah, because otherwise, apart from Ambush Gigapede, there's nothing in particular that actually. Yeah, I suppose Boneyard's Desecrator maybe, but there's nothing else that is a big threat otherwise. And I know Overzealous isn't the biggest creature the world's ever seen, but it's certainly not a small one either. Ambush Gigapede regards him. I know a lot of people have said that he is a surprisingly good card, and I at least somewhat agree with them. I probably didn't get as much luck as I wanted as far as Ambush Gigapede is concerned, and I'm glad that I didn't keep the 3 that I drafted in the main deck, because I just don't think I would have got much use out of that many, though, hey, the situation might have arisen. So, and as far as lands are concerned, yeah, 8 of each is great. Sandstorm Verge, I mainly just sort of drafted to test, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't get much use out of it. I think it was game 5 that I essentially won because of it. but I might be over summarizing. Is that the word I'm looking for? I might be oversimplifying it too much. As far as other cards, I'm glad that I didn't keep the other two Armored Armadillo. While I did say that I'm happy with the one, I suppose in hindsight, Insatiable Avarice would have been good to get rid of for another Armadillo, because it is defensive regardless of what deck it's in for the first few turns. So, yeah, maybe in hindsight I should have gone one of those instead of the Avarice, but there's nothing jumping out as far as I definitely should have gone the other two of those. I suppose maybe hindsight Baron Greywater, but even he's not terrible. Requisition Raid was one that I maybe could have kept, but in hindsight, I haven't seen many artifacts or enchantments that I particularly wanted to get rid of, though it is very good at getting rid of those situations. I suppose in a draft, the thing you got to think about in this case for Requisition Raid is, yes, you can destroy a target artifact. Yes, you can destroy a target enchantment. Yes, you can do both for a pretty efficient cost, actually. But if your opponent doesn't have much by way of artifacts or enchantments, you've essentially wasted a card. Yeah, though its third ability, put a 1/1 counter on each creature target player controls, is still good. I might have got a bit of use out of that, but yeah, there's nothing jumping out at me as far as when I would have played that. I'll try and try it some other time. The Bovine Intervention, yeah, I'm glad I didn't keep that one in. It has its uses, but giving your opponent a creature is probably not a good thing. Inventive Wingsmith, yeah, I'm glad I didn't draft that one either, or keep that one in deck. I mean, it's certainly not a terrible card, but I don't think in this particular case, I think I said while I was drafting actually that by the time I get to 3 mana, I think I needed something a bit aggressive, because I've got everything else is defensive in some sense, and definitely wouldn't have splashed blue for Jailbreak Scheme and or Essence Capture. Overzealous Muscle, I'm glad that I didn't keep the 3 of them, because he's a good creature and I'm happy with him, but you sort of only really need 1 on the board, and you can, if not necessarily win, at least put your opponent in some sort of threat. So I don't think I needed 3, though maybe I could have gone the 3rd instead of Greywater, because I probably had a few games where I had enough removal that I was basically dealing with creatures anyway, so I may as well press the aggressive, maybe. Ambush Gigapede, in a similar sense to what I just said about the Overzealous Muscle, there's 3 is probably a too many. I'm sure there was a situation where 3 would have been excellent, but 6 mana, you do have to be a bit careful that it can be as bad as 6 mana destroy target small creature. So you got to be a little bit careful there. As far as the red mana, Ride Down was probably the only one that I really considered because of its white splash there. And it is a pretty good card and was used against me a few times actually. But yeah, Quick Draw, Outlaws Fury, if I'd splashed red, would have been the cards I went with. Though Quick Draw is, I know I'm oversimplifying it, but Quick Draw is a 1 mana cost combat trick that destroys target creature, whereas all the other spells that I would have considered otherwise are removal spells anyway. So I'm probably glad that I didn't go red for that. Lava Spur Boots, I haven't seen that perform effectively, though I'm sure there's situations where it's actually a damn good card. I just didn't find them. Sterling Hound was the one that I did consider simply for the reliability sort of effect. Though, what would I have got rid of to put it in? Maybe a Take Up the Shield and or Wanted Griffin, but I think at least in this deck, Wanted Griffin would stay over Sterling Hound. Though I suppose keep in mind that in this particular deck, I have 2 creatures for 3 mana and 1 murder in this case, not non-creature spell, for 3 mana. So to over-exaggerate it, I'm doing stuff turn 1, 2, maybe 3, and then 4, 5, 6. So yeah, I'm certainly not unhappy with putting Sterling Hound away, but there might have been a situation where I could have done better in that sense. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how that deck went, though maybe in the power of hindsight, taking out Ruthless Lawbringer and the Baron Bertram Greywater for maybe the 2 Sterling Hound, or even one of the Armadillos, maybe. Yeah, I wish I was a little more determinant on what I'm happy with in this particular deck, but I'm pretty happy with how it went. Yes, I could have won 3 more games, but that's alright. Thanks for watching. See you next time.